Remember when we first met here? You were wearing that same dress.
I remember. You were so nervous you spilled your drink on me.
The thing about Chitra was that she never entered a room. She made an entrance. I remember the first time I saw her at the art exhibition in Victoria Island. December 2022. The gallery was packed with Lagos elite, but when she walked in wearing that emerald dress that matched her eyes, conversations paused. Heads turned. She had this way of carrying herself, like she owned every space she occupied. I was standing by the wine table when our eyes met across the room. She smiled, and I swear my heart stopped beating for a second. "You've been staring at that painting for 15 minutes, she said, appearing beside me with a glass of champagne. Either you're an art critic, or you're avoiding the crowd. Maybe both, I replied, trying to sound confident despite my racing pulse. She laughed. The kind of laugh that made you want to hear it again and again. I'm Chitra. Chi for short. Tund. Just Tund. That conversation lasted 3 hours. We talked about everything, her work as a brand consultant for luxury companies, my software development business, our shared love for Afrobeats and late-night Sia spots in Acadia. By the time the gallery closed, I had her number and a promise to take her to the best pepper soup spot in Surelaire. Our first date turned into our second, then third. Within months, Chitra became the center of my world. She was everything I thought I wanted. Ambitious, beautiful, cultured. She knew all the trendy places, the rooftop bars on the island, the hidden restaurants in Lekki, the exclusive beach clubs in Alagushi. She introduced me to a lifestyle I'd only seen in music videos. Suddenly, I was attending out parties and private dinners with people who drove Range Rovers and spoke casually about trips to Dubai. But it wasn't just the glamour. She made me feel seen. She'd show up at my office in Yaba with lunch when I was working late. She'd post us on her Instagram with captions like, "My safe place" and "Building empires together." Her friends loved me. Her younger sister called me brother-in-law before we'd even discussed marriage. By our first anniversary in December 2023, I was ready to make it permanent. My mother had started asking about when she'd meet Chi's parents for the traditional introduction. My friends were placing bets on when I'd propose. There were small things, though. Little moments that didn't quite add up. Sometimes Chi would cancel plans last minute, claiming emergency client meetings. She'd go silent for hours, then reappear with elaborate explanations. She had 2 phones, an iPhone for personal use and a Samsung she said was for work. But I'd catch her smiling at messages on the Samsung late at night, then quickly locking the screen when I walked into the room. "Work stress," she'd say with a kiss on my forehead. "These clients are demanding, but they pay well." I believed her because I wanted to, because the alternative was unthinkable. In January 2024, I decided Valentine's Day would be the night. I'd propose at La Taverna, the Italian restaurant in 6 where we had our third date. It was romantic, expensive, and she loved their truffle pasta. I'd been saving for months to make everything perfect. I bought the ring in early February, a princess-cut diamond from a jeweler in Surelaire. Nothing too flashy, but elegant. Cheese style. I showed my best friend, Emeka, and he whistled low. "Guy, you're really doing this." "She's the one, bro. I'm sure." "Just make sure she's sure too," Emeka said, his tone more serious than usual. I laughed it off. "What are you talking about? We're solid." But Emeka's words stayed with me longer than they should have. 2 weeks before Valentine's Day, Chi started acting strange. She'd always been busy, but now she was constantly distracted. She'd stare at her Samsung during dinner, her fingers hovering over the keyboard before she'd lock it and apologize. "Valentine's plans still on?" I asked one evening as we sat in traffic on 3rd Mainland Bridge, heading back to the mainland. "Of course," she said, but she didn't look at me. Her eyes were fixed on something outside the window. I booked La Taverna. 7 p.m. I want everything to be special. She finally turned to me, and for a brief second, I saw something in her eyes. Guilt? Fear? But it vanished as quickly as it appeared, replaced by her signature smile. "I wouldn't miss it, baby. You know Valentine's is our day." I held her hand across the center console, feeling the weight of the ring box in my laptop bag on the back seat. In 1 week, everything would change. We'd take the next step. Start planning our future together. I had no idea that in 1 week, my entire world would shatter. Valentine's Day, 2024. The day started like any other in Lagos. Heat, traffic, and the chaotic energy of millions of people hustling through another day. But for me, it was supposed to be different. Special. I woke up at 6 a.m., too excited to sleep. The ring box sat on my bedside table, catching the early morning light streaming through my apartment window in Lekki Phase 1. I picked it up, opened it, stared at the diamond that cost me 3 months of savings. By tonight, Chitara would be my fiancé. I spent the morning getting ready, fresh haircut from my barber in Onairu, a new agbada I'd had tailored specifically for this night, new shoes from the Palms Mall. I wanted to look perfect. I wanted everything to be perfect. At 3 p.m., I texted Chi. Can't wait to see you tonight. I love you. She replied 20 minutes later. Love you too. Finishing up some client work. See you at 7. The delay in response should have been my first warning. She was always on her phone. Always. At 5 p.m., I left my apartment, wanting to get to the restaurant early to coordinate with the manager. I'd paid extra for them to prepare a special setup. Rose petals on the table, a violinist for when I got down on one knee. It was going to be straight out of a Nollywood movie, and I didn't care how cliché it was. Lagos traffic had other plans. What should have been a 30-minute drive from Lekki to 6 turned into 90 minutes of standstill chaos on Admiralty Way. I texted Chi updates, increasingly frustrated. She didn't respond. I finally arrived at La Taverna at 6:45 p.m., sweating despite the car AC, my carefully ironed agbada now wrinkled from sitting in traffic. The restaurant was beautiful, dimly lit, filled with couples, roses, and candles on every table. Valentine's Day in Lagos, and everyone was trying to impress someone. Our table was perfect. Corner spot, view of the Lagos skyline, rose petals arranged in a heart shape. The ring box felt heavy in my pocket. 7 p.m. came. No Chi. I texted her. I'm here. Where are you? 7:15. Nothing. 7:30. I called. It rang once, then went to voicemail. My stomach started churning. Chi was never late. Never. She was the type who showed up 10 minutes early to everything, who hated making people wait. At 7:45, the waiter approached for the 3rd time. Sir, would you like to order while you wait? Just give me a few more minutes, I said, trying to keep my voice steady. Other couples around me were laughing, feeding each other, taking photos. I sat alone, checking my phone every 30 seconds, feeling the stares of pity from nearby tables. At 8 p.m., my phone buzzed. Finally. But it wasn't Chi. It was Emeka. Bro, check Chi's Instagram story. Now. My hands were shaking as I opened Instagram. I navigated to Chitara's profile, my heart pounding so hard I could hear it over the restaurant music. She'd posted a story 15 minutes ago. The image made my blood run cold. It was a photo of 2 champagne glasses clinking together. Soft candlelight. Romantic music notes emoji. And the caption, Valentines with my king crown red heart. But I wasn't in that photo. I could see the reflection in the glasses, a man's hand with a thick gold bracelet. Definitely not mine. And the background. I recognized those distinctive black and white checkered floors. That specific lighting. The red velvet chairs. Nkoyo restaurant. The exclusive Calabar cuisine spot in Ikoyi. Less than 3 kilometers from where I sat. My girlfriend was on a Valentine's date with another man while I sat alone with an engagement ring, waiting for her like a fool. I must have stared at that photo for 5 full minutes, my brain refusing to accept what my eyes were seeing. This had to be a mistake. Maybe it was an old photo. Maybe she was with a client. Maybe there was an explanation. I called her again. Straight to voicemail. I called again. And again. And again. Nothing. The waiter returned, concern evident on his face. Sir, is everything okay? Should we cancel your reservation? I couldn't speak. Couldn't move. Couldn't breathe. Finally, I managed to say, yes.
Cancel it. I'm sorry.
I paid for the setup costs and walked out of La Taverna in a daze. Outside, Lagos was alive. Cars honking, people laughing, couples walking hand in hand along the waterfront. The city didn't care that my life was falling apart. I stood on the sidewalk, the engagement ring burning a hole in my pocket, and made a decision. I was going to Nkoyo restaurant. I had to see this with my own eyes. Had to know who this man was. Had to understand how the woman I was about to propose to could be on a date with someone else. The drive to Ikoyi took 15 minutes. The whole time, I kept calling Chi. Every call went to voicemail. I texted her, "I know where you are." No response. When I pulled up to Nkoyo, my entire body was trembling. The restaurant glowed warm and inviting, completely unaware of the confrontation about to happen inside. I sat in my car for a moment, trying to calm down, trying to think rationally. But rational thought was impossible. Rage and heartbreak were wrestling inside my chest. I got out of the car and walked toward the entrance. Through the large windows, I could see the dining room. And then I saw her.
Chitara.
My Chi wearing a red dress I'd never seen before, her hair styled differently, laughing at something across the table. She looked radiant.
Happy.
Exactly the way she looked when we first met. And the man sitting across from her made my heart stop completely. He was older, maybe mid-40s. Designer suit, expensive watch, salt and pepper beard. He held her hand across the table, and she let him. She was smiling at him the way she smiled at me on our first date. I walked through the door. The hostess tried to greet me, but I moved past her, heading straight for their table. She saw me before I got there. The smile died on her face. Her eyes went wide with shock, then fear. Stunned. "Who is he?" My voice came out louder than I intended. Other diners turned to stare. The man looked up, confused and annoyed. "Excuse me, who are you?" She stood up quickly, grabbing my arm. "Tun, please, not here. Let's go outside." "Not here." I pulled my arm away. "You're on a date with another man on Valentine's Day, and you're worried about making a scene?" The man stood up now, his expression changing from annoyance to something else. Recognition?
Wait.
"Are you Tund? The business partner?" Business partner. Those two words hit me like a physical blow. "What did you just say?" I asked, my voice dropping to a whisper. Chi's face had gone completely pale. The man looked between us, understanding dawning on his face. "She told me you were her business partner, that you two run the consulting firm together." I laughed. It was a harsh, broken sound. Business partner. "How long?" I asked Chi, my voice shaking. "How long has this been going on?" She wouldn't look at me. Her eyes were fixed on the floor. "How long, Chitara?" 14 months, she whispered. The restaurant had gone completely silent. 14 months. More than a year. Almost our entire relationship. Time seemed to freeze in that moment. The restaurant sounds faded into background noise. The clinking of cutlery, the soft Afrobeats playing through the speakers, the hushed conversations of other diners pretending not to watch our drama unfold. 14 months. I'd been planning a proposal, while Chi had been living an entirely separate life with another man for over a year. The man, I still didn't know his name, sat back down slowly, his face a mixture of shock and anger. 14 months?
Chi, what is he talking about?
You said you only knew him professionally. Don't call her Chi, I said, my voice cold. That's what I call her. What's your name? Kenneth. Kenneth Okonkwo. He straightened his shoulders, businessman instinct kicking in despite the chaos. And I think I deserve some answers too. Chi finally looked up, tears streaming down her face. But I felt nothing watching her cry. No sympathy. No urge to comfort her. Just a hollow emptiness where my love for her used to be. Can we please not do this here? She begged, her voice breaking. No, Kenneth and I said simultaneously. Kenneth gestured to the empty chair at their table. Sit down, Tund. I think we both need to hear this. It was surreal. Sitting at a romantic Valentine's dinner table with my girlfriend and her other boyfriend, about to dissect the ruins of what I thought was my relationship. The waiter approached nervously, clearly unsure how to handle the situation. "We're fine," Kenneth said firmly, waving him away. Then to Chi. "Start talking." Chi wiped her tears, her hands shaking as she reached for her wine glass. She took a long drink before speaking. "I met Kenneth first," she began, her voice barely above a whisper. October 2022. At a corporate event in Eco Hotel. He was looking for a brand consultant for his real estate company. Kenneth nodded slowly. "We started working together. Then it became more. By November, we were dating," she continued. "It was intense.
Fast.
Kenneth was everything I thought I wanted. Successful, established, generous." "Then why am I here?" asked, my voice sharp. "Why did you start anything with me?" She finally met my eyes. "I met you in December. At that art exhibition. And you were different."
Real.
Kenneth's world is all about status and appearances. With you, I could just be myself. No pressure. No expectations. "So you decided to have both?" Kenneth's voice was bitter. "You couldn't choose, so you just didn't?" "It wasn't like that," Chi protested weakly. "Then what was it like?" I demanded. "Because from where I'm sitting, you lied to both of us for over a year. You built entire lives with two different men and thought you'd never get caught." The truth started spilling out, piece by piece, each revelation more painful than the last. The girls' trips to Abuja? She was with Kenneth at his property development sites. The emergency client meetings? Kenneth's calls. The Samsung phone? That was the Kenneth phone, while her iPhone was for me and her actual work. The weekends you said you needed alone time? I asked, my voice hollow. "I was at Kenneth's house in Banana Island," she admitted. Kenneth's jaw clenched. "And the times you said you were traveling for work?" "With Tund. Either at his place or we'd go to Betrayal or Ibadan for the weekend." It was methodical, calculated. She had created a perfect system to maintain two completely separate relationships. She'd even adjusted her social media, posting me regularly on Instagram where Kenneth rarely looked, while keeping Kenneth in her private life, telling him she preferred to keep relationships off social media until it was serious. "I was going to propose tonight," I said quietly, pulling the ring box from my pocket and placing it on the table. She gasped, fresh tears flowing. Kenneth stared at the box, then at her. "I was planning to propose in the Maldives next month," Kenneth said, his voice tight. "Had the whole thing planned. Private beach, photographer, the works." The weight of that statement hung in the air. Both of us had been ready to commit our lives to a woman who'd been lying to us for over a year. "Why?" I asked. It was the only question that mattered anymore. "Why would you do this to us?" She was fully crying now, mascara running down her face. "I didn't mean for it to go this far. At first, I thought I'd figure out what I wanted and choose. But months passed and I couldn't. You both gave me different things. With Kenneth, I felt secure, taken care of. With Tund, I felt understood, loved for who I am, not what I could be." "So you decided to have both," Kenneth said flatly. "You're 32 years old, Chitra. Not a confused teenager. You made a choice every single day to lie to both of us. Did you love either of us?" I asked. "Or was this all just convenient?" "I loved you both," she whispered, "in different ways." "That's not love," I said, standing up. "Love doesn't lie. Love doesn't manipulate. Love doesn't make someone wait alone at a restaurant on Valentine's Day while you're out with someone else." I picked up the ring box and put it back in my pocket. "I was going to ask you to marry me tonight. I was going to introduce you to my extended family next month. I was planning our future while you were busy scheduling which boyfriend got which weekend." "Tund, please. Did you even love me? Or was I just the young, naive option while Kenneth was the meal ticket?" She flinched like I'd slapped her. "It wasn't like that." "Then tell me what it was like," I demanded. "Make me understand how you looked me in the eye every day and lied." But she had no answer, because there was no answer that would make sense. No explanation that would justify the betrayal. Kenneth stood up as well, throwing his napkin on the table. "I left my wife for you, he said, his voice shaking with rage. 6 months ago, I ended a 15-year marriage because you convinced me we had something real. You cried to me about how you'd been hurt before, how you needed someone who'd never leave you. And the whole time, you were with him. That revelation hit me like a truck. You were married? Divorced now, Kenneth said bitterly. Because she said she couldn't be with someone who wasn't fully available. The irony is almost funny. She had destroyed not one relationship, but 3. Kenneth's marriage. Kenneth and her. Me and her. I need to know something, I said, looking directly at Chi. That night 2 weeks ago when you stayed over at my place. When you told me you loved me and wanted to build a life with me. Where did you tell Kenneth you were? Work trip to Port Harcourt, she whispered. And last Sunday when you had lunch with Kenneth's parents? I told you I was at a spa day with my sister. Every answer was another knife to the chest. Every lie, another piece of the woman I loved disappearing, revealing a stranger underneath. Kenneth pulled out his wallet and threw several thousand naira notes on the table. For the dinner she's not going to finish. He looked at Chi one last time. Don't ever contact me again. Delete my number. If I see you at any industry event, I'll walk the other way. You don't exist to me anymore. Then he walked out of the restaurant without looking back. I should have followed him. Should have left with my dignity intact. But I needed one more answer. Did you ever plan to choose? I asked she. Or were you going to keep this going forever? She looked up at me with red, swollen eyes. I don't know. I honestly don't know. That was the most honest thing she'd said all night. Goodbye, Chitara, I said, using her full name for the first time since we met. I hope whatever you were looking for was worth losing everything. I walked out of Nkoya restaurant and into the Lagos night, leaving behind the woman I'd loved and the future I'd imagined. The drive back to my apartment is a blur. I remember traffic lights, music playing on the radio, some romantic song that made me want to throw my phone out the window, couples walking hand in hand on the street, completely unaware that Valentine's Day had just destroyed my life. When I got home, I sat in my car in the parking lot for 30 minutes, unable to move. The engagement ring was still in my pocket. I pulled it out, stared at it under the dim parking lot lights. 3 months of savings. Weeks of planning. All for nothing. My phone had been buzzing constantly since I left the restaurant. Text messages from Chi. Tund. Please let me explain. I never meant to hurt you. Can we please talk? I'm so sorry. Please don't hate me. I blocked her number. Blocked her on Instagram, WhatsApp, everywhere. I didn't want her explanations. Didn't want her apologies. They wouldn't change anything. Emeka called around midnight. Bro, where are you? I've been trying to reach you for hours.
Home, I said.
My voice sounded strange, distant. What happened? Did you propose?
No.
I found her with another man. They've been together for 14 months. Silence on the other end. Then, I'm coming over. Emeka, it's late. I'm already in my car. Be there in 20. True to his word, Emeka showed up with a bottle of whiskey and no judgment. We sat on my balcony overlooking the Lagos skyline, and I told him everything. Every painful detail. Guy, I'm sorry, he said when I finished. I should have pushed harder when I had those suspicions. You had suspicions? Nothing solid. Just sometimes when we'd all hang out, she'd be weird about photos. Or she'd get uncomfortable when we talked about future plans with you. I thought maybe she just didn't like public attention. I laughed bitterly. She was protecting her double life. We drank in silence for a while. Then Emeka asked the question I'd been avoiding. What are you going to do with the ring? I don't know. Return it, I guess. Or, Emeka said carefully, you could keep it. For when you meet someone who actually deserves it. The thought of ever trusting someone again seemed impossible in that moment. The next few weeks were hard. Lagos is a big city, but somehow it felt too small. I'd be at the grocery store and see a woman with cheese hairstyle, and my heart would stop. I'd hear her laugh in a crowd and turn around, only to see a stranger. She tried to reach out through friends. Through her sister, who I'd actually liked. Messages saying she wanted to explain, to apologize properly, to make things right. There was nothing to make right. You can't fix betrayal with apologies. Kenneth reached out about 3 weeks after Valentine's Day. We met for drinks at a bar in Acadia, two men who'd been betrayed by the same woman, trying to make sense of it all. I hired a private investigator, he told me over beer. After that night, I needed to know if there were others. Were there?
No.
Just us. For whatever that's worth. We laughed, but there was no humor in it. I'm sorry about your marriage, I said. That she cost you that. Kenneth shrugged. Honestly, my marriage was already broken. She was just the excuse I used to leave. I'm angry about the lies. But the divorce? That was going to happen anyway. It was strange, finding common ground with a man I'd seen as an enemy just weeks before. But we weren't enemies. We were both victims of the same manipulation. What are you going to do now? I asked him. Focus on work. Maybe travel. Figure out who I am without someone else defining it. He smiled slightly. What about you? Same, I guess.
Work. Heal.
Try not to become bitter. Let me know how that last part works out, Kenneth said. We finished our drinks and exchanged numbers. Not because we were going to be best friends, but because sometimes it helps to know someone else understands your pain. 3 months after Valentine's Day, I'm sitting at a new restaurant in Lecky, this time with my mother and sister. They're trying to set me up with their friend's daughter, and I'm politely declining while picking at Sia. Tund, you can't let one bad woman ruin relationships for you forever, my mother says. I'm not. I'm just not ready. My sister, Saad, squeezes my hand. You'll know when you're ready. And next time, you'll be wiser.
She's right.
She taught me painful lessons, but they were lessons nonetheless. I learned to trust my instincts, to pay attention to inconsistencies, to ask questions instead of making excuses. I learned that love alone isn't enough if it's built on lies, that someone can look you in the eye and say they love you while betraying you in the same breath, that people are capable of compartmentalizing their lives in ways that seem impossible until you see it firsthand. But I also learned that I'm stronger than I thought. That heartbreak doesn't kill you, even when it feels like it will. That life continues even when you think your world has ended. Last week, I returned the engagement ring. The jeweler gave me a full refund, no questions asked. With that money, I booked a trip to Ghana for next month. Solo travel. Time to clear my head and remember who I am outside of a relationship. My phone buzzes with a message. It's from a number I don't recognize. Hi Tund, this is Amaka. We met at your sister's birthday party last month. She gave me your number and said you might want to get coffee sometime. No pressure, just thought I'd reach out. I stare at the message for a long time. Part of me wants to ignore it, to stay in my safe bubble of singleness. But another part, the part that's slowly healing, remembers that not everyone is chi. I type back. Hi Amaka. Coffee sounds nice. How's next Saturday? Her response comes quickly. Perfect. There's a great spot in 6. Looking forward to it. I put my phone down and look out at the Lagos evening. The sun is setting over the lagoon, painting the sky in shades of orange and pink. The city is alive with its usual chaos. Traffic, noise, millions of people chasing their dreams and running from their demons. Somewhere out there, Chi is living her life. Maybe she learned from her mistakes. Maybe she didn't. It's no longer my concern. What matters is that I'm moving forward. Slowly, carefully, but forward nonetheless. Valentine's Day used to be my favorite holiday. Now, it's just another day. Maybe someday it'll mean something special again, with someone who actually deserves to share it with me. Until then, I have my work, my family, my friends, and the hard-won wisdom that comes from surviving betrayal.
I'm not whole yet.
But I'm getting there. And that's enough for now.